Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School!
Oh, this week we're going to get into Wes Craven's 1996 original film, Scream.
Let's dive on in. All right, everybody, I am Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Paltry.
And if you like what you see /here, please like and subscribe. You can find us in all the spaces and places people find good media.
That's what I heard.
That's right. We do festivals, 101s, punishment reviews, and every other week we do a scene analysis.
That's right. This week?
This week it's the opening scene from Scream, the 1996 movie. We have...
How many are there now? They're coming out with like 4 or 5, right?
Yeah, isn't there like a TV series too? Or I guess they did that a couple years ago.
They remade... I know there's a bunch of them now.
Right.
And they're coming out with a newer one. And this one is obviously the original.
Yep.
When we were in high school, I think, is when this came out. And I don't know. My son wanted to see the new one, and it's not necessarily a remake, but it's as much of a remake as Force Awakens is for A New Hope.
It's like a
it's exactly the same story.
What do they call it?
With a different character.
Soft reboot.
Soft reboot.
It's a soft reboot.
So that's essentially all it is. And
the mask isn't as good. Like the mask in the new one, I'm like, oh, it's like legitimately creepy. Whereas what made the old one creepy is that it's not creepy.
Like a store-bought mask.
Yeah, and like that's what works about it. Here, this opening scene, we have Drew Barrymore in all of her 90s glory.
Yes.
I mean, this is Drew flashing. This is
90s.
Drew flashing Dave Letterman era Drew Barrymore, right?
Sure.
Like, cover of Playboy magazine, like just.
Oh, I remember. You don't.
I don't know. Do you remember one of your, seminal teenage turn-on moments? Because I'll remind you. No, yeah, it is true. And, this is like, this is really the psycho twist of the 90s.
I mean, this is a very Hitchcockian scene.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think in that same way that you would never think to kill off a main character, and obviously that's the classic in Psycho that they did, but it had been so long, you just
most people watching didn't know that reference.
It was an homage to anything.
You're also doing it she's like the biggest thing on the poster.
Yep.
So you're getting tricked.
Yes.
By Wes Craven. And you put her in the first scene. No one knows what's coming.
And so iconic, the whole, it is without doing it. It is When a Stranger Calls, right? It is have you checked on the kids babysitter scene? Mm-hmm. But obviously with a little bit different here with this, what's your favorite scary movie? Which again, becomes this iconic saying in a movie that's as iconic as any other horror movie quote, right?
Oh, it's definitely up there. But I mean, this was a new wave of this modern horror in the 90s, right? And it went on to be things like I Know What You Did Last Summer and that kind of stuff, which none of these I'm going to say I'm like, I love these movies. This one's a fun movie.
And it's the most classic of all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have Jamie Kennedy giving the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it was just first one of the era to be that meta, right? I
Totally.
think, especially with Wes Craven, who's like perfect for this job, but they take the experience.
I mean, she even says the line in the beginning to the killer.
Yeah,
we're going
to get to that.
Yeah, she's like, the first one's good.
Yeah. He makes fun of himself. Like, they're I don't know. He's so perfect because one, he looks at it from the audience perspective, which I don't think we've seen that much at this point.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So from the audience perspective of a horror fan and just like openly talking about the tropes of what a horror movie is, right?
And what's scary and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we get to watch which ones are stupid, which ones are working, which ones are like a ploy. Or like, what does he say on the phone? He's like, oh, you might as well come out and check for a noise outside. Like, why would you say, are you outside?
I love it so much.
Just little
so
things
good.
like that, and we always get the POV of the damsel in distress. And that's definitely like what this scene is, right? but you rarely get it from the POV of some stupid, nerdy high school kid like Jamie Kennedy who's explaining the rules of the game, right? That's what he wants. That's what Ghostface wants to do, is play a game.
Yeah, he obviously whoever this killer is also obsessed with horror movies. And so, that gives us a weird window into relevance because we're watching a horror movie that the character's in.
And it really just becomes a whodunit, right?
It does. But I have to say one thing in particular. I mean, there's a couple of really good, creepy, violent moments in the first Scream. There's also some really corny ones. I'm thinking about Rose McGowan's death.
That's bad.
I mean, her walking around in that sweater again as a high schooler, like that was. But then when the garage door went up, even I, idiot that I was at that age, was like, I don't think that's how that works.
I
don't think that's how the garage door works, you know. But the opening scene, this in particular,
the violence here is
it is, and it's not just intense. It's the word I kept coming back to is it's cynical. Yes, there's all this great flashy early stuff of the phone ringing and him taunting her. But once we actually see Ghostface running through the house, from that point on, the rest of this sequence is so cynical. Like, there's her parents literally right there. And he's gutting her like a fish.
I forgot the parents showed up
in
the scene. I hadn't watched it in a while.
And then the fact that she picks up the phone to call 911 and the other phone is still on and she can hear her crying, like moaning for help. I was like, that's way darker than I remember it being.
I agree, because you do that thing that you yell at horror movies, like, don't go down those dark stairs.
Yeah,
like
totally,
you yell that at her, like, in a variety of ways, even though that my version of that here is like, why are you still holding onto the phone? Drop the phone.
Yeah, get the or like, hey, you can hang up the phone and then call the cops. But it comes back in
that moment that you're talking about, where you're like, oh, she's holding it and like she's slowly dying, and her parents get to listen.
Her parents get to listen. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why the only word I really had was cynical, and it's. But I think that to go back to the original Nightmare on Elm Street, like, yes, eventually Freddy became, Jim Carrey in The Mask, where he's just like, blah, he's like a cartoon character. He doesn't seem that dangerous anymore. But in the first one, like, he's a real threat. And again, most people don't remember this about the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Craven does the same thing there. Our main heroine that we follow in the beginning is the blonde girl, and she's the first one who has the dream, and we think that the movie's going to be about her. And about 5 to 7 minutes into the movie, Freddy just disembowels her. And it becomes the other character, Heather Langen, Langenkamp. She becomes the main heroine, right? But again, in that same way of pulling the rug out from underneath you and being like, all bets might be off here. And I remember seeing it in the theater and feeling that way.
Yeah.
Like being like, wait, that's a dream, right? She's going to wake up from a dream she's having.
Nope.
And then it's like, no, she's dead.
Well, and he did such a great job here. The guy is Roger Jackson, is the voice of Ghostface.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't want him on set at all the whole time, and they're actually talking to him.
Oh, wow.
In the scene, and I don't know, it's pretty spot on, and I love the dialogue, because at first it's kind of like he's kind of flirty, and this is another pull the rug out from under you moment, and it seems like he's just like some creep calling. It's not as much of a threat until he definitely takes the hanging up personally. He gets pissed.
Oh yeah,
and it just steps up a level each time, right? And I don't know. It was just
that line. You're putting it perfectly, because yes, it feels flirty. Maybe it's a guy from her high school, and then when he's like,
"But then
why won't you tell me your name?" And then he goes, "Because I want to know who I'm looking at."
Yes.
Jesus, so scary.
For sure.
Such an amazing scary moment in that, like at the very beginning of the movie. It works so well.
And the point that I was getting to here is where she's like, my boyfriend's coming over. He's a big football player. Like, she's just like obviously lying.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you talk about him before?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, actually he is, you do have a boyfriend, and he's
tied up outside. Yeah. Well, and I think that in that back and forth between the two of them, it really does continue to ramp up and ramp up. You know, and it's such a little thing, but I noticed it so much this time watching it, is the Jiffy Pop on the stove.
A lot of tension.
It does, because you're like, it's done popping, like she's got to get it off, but she's starting to like get freaked out and moving around the house now, and now there's smoke, and now there's the smoke alarm, and it does it like, even though you're like, it's such a dumb thing, like there's literally the threat of a killer outside, and at some point Craven's like, leave the popcorn on the stove. Yeah, you know, and you're like, it works so well though.
Yeah,
it adds a secondary layer.
Yeah, it absolutely builds tension. But again, like, why are you even answering the phone after the fourth time?
Yeah, totally. She's like holding it and crying with it in her hand, like, why? And you're like, oh, the age before caller ID.
That's right.
Right. Now I will say, the moment these little flashes of Ghostface inside the house, first of all, inside the house, fucking yikes.
Yeah.
But then B, we don't know what the costume is yet. So when we first see him run by, and there's those black trails that are part of like the robed costume, but we don't know what it is yet. So we just see those like with the frilly little black, and you're like, what the hell is it? And then that iconic first moment. I mean, watching it this time, I got goosebumps. She comes running around the house, and then he's running behind her, all of that black flapping. It's all in slow motion, full mask, and that knife above his head, that hunting knife. I was just like, man, I don't think I appreciated it because I was like a jaded teenager the first time I saw this.
Same.
But seeing it now, I'm like, they had to know in the moment, like, this is a new icon.
For sure. And the first reveal is actually in the window where he...
That's right.
Where that is what I thought you were getting at. Is that
no, that one's really scary, but it's the full body, him running after her, that I was like, wow.
Something I noticed this time too that I don't think I thought about before is he asked, which door are you by, or whatever. It's like, this is the front door, this is the back door.
Yeah.
And spoilers are coming, so if you haven't seen Scream... Sorry. Yeah. We put it at the beginning of the episode. Yeah. So, anyways, but he said, you know, there's two, which one is it? But we know at the end that there's actually two ghost faces. So it doesn't matter what she answers. She's fucked either way.
Yep, exactly. And I was thinking about that too. And it's a really interesting point that I think that was a revelation, you know, that had never happened before either, where that's the, you know, yes, twist number one is it was your boyfriend. Twist number two is there's two of them, which means all those times that we normally would get the horror movie reinforcement of, well, it can't be him because he was there when we saw the killer.
He does show up like right after this happens.
Yep, exactly. Final thing that I'll say about this, seeing it this time all these years later, noticing how many references there are to like the Italian giallo, like horror movie scene of, in particular, when the hand, after the first stab, hand comes up, and I mean it's framed from underneath, it's clad in black leather, you know, it's that hunting knife silver, with the blood on the end, you know, and it's shining in the night, and I was just like, oh yeah, this is like Suspiria, this is like Inferno, this is like, you know, Deep Red, like it's a total reference to all those different older movies.
Well, and just the way she's hanging on the tree at the end with her guts splattered everywhere.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're like, oh, this is his callback to all like the famous Italian, you know, 70s scene. And like, yeah, it's pretty cool to go back and revisit, and because I think
knowing it's Craven doing it the whole time, probably just like just laughing.
Totally. And I think that to me, growing up, I had reverence for what he was doing in the 80s, but because it was like the most popular thing at a time when, like, as a punk kid, I was not interested in being into the most popular things at the time.
Sure, yeah.
I was like, watched Scream and was like, yeah, it's clever, and then was like, psh, about it.
Come on, Craven, sell out.
And like there was that vibe, and then there was just like, I don't know, like, you know, the soundtrack was all like 7 Days Grace or whatever shit was popular in like the late
title
90s.
Card here at the beginning is so 90s.
Oh my god, where it's like, it looks like one of those like, you wouldn't steal a car, why would you pirate a movie? Like that's what it looked like. Yeah. So I think that's why I initially had that kind of bristling towards it. But going back all these years later, I'm like, oh, I get this thing you were doing. I see all the references.
Well, Yeah, I think that's an underrated thing here. It probably gets talked about, but maybe forgotten a little bit that he orchestrated this new modern era of horror when he already did that with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. Like he was already responsible for the first new wave of horror back in the 80s.
So it's just like, wow. I thought I was thinking like, oh, this is like a 5-minute scene. It's 13 minutes.
Wow.
And I didn't realize
was it?
Yeah,
I don't think I realized
it,
that.
and I was just like, holy cow! I did not think it was
so
that long.
tense.
But yeah, you get wrapped up into it, and she does such a good job. Obviously, I mean, we've talked about her being an icon and everything, but she holds the whole thing. It's her by herself.
Yeah.
90% of this.
Yeah. So. She's the only face that we see on screen that whole time. Really. So, yeah. No.
Fun scene to revisit.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Please like and subscribe. Next week, we're going to continue our food festival with Ratatouille. So we'll see you then and play along.
Bye, you guys.